Here's Johnny! What's up, YouTube? This is your boy John from the Jersey Shore, and I'm here today to talk about Stanley Kubrick's 1980 masterpiece, The Shining. The Shining, starring Jack Nicholson, Shelley, Duvall, Danny, Lloyd, and Scatman Crothers, is one of my all-time favorite movies. I've spoken about this movie in several YouTube videos. It's in my top 10. It's in my top 10 video. The other day I did a mukbang from Wendy's, and I was talking about the fact that I was going to watch The Shining in preparation for the release of Dr. Sleep the other night. We watched it together, my wife, my son, and I, because we were going to go see Dr. Sleep on Friday night. And I didn't want to be in the movie theater with, well, number one, I wanted him to be up to speed as to what's going on. I didn't want him to be lost. My wife had actually never seen The Shining from beginning to end, which is kind of disturbing. But my son, he's 12. He has seen The Shining, but it's been a while. So I thought that a refresher would be a good idea. We watched it, like I said, we watched it Thursday before football started Thursday night, so that we could go see Dr. Sleep on Friday. I also wanted to avoid as best I could the whispers in the movie theater. Why did that happen? Who was that? Who was he? Where was this? When did that happen? I wanted to avoid all of that so that we could all just focus on the movie and have a good time. I've heard rumblings throughout the years that Stephen King really wasn't crazy about this movie, simply because it was not focused on his book. The book focuses more on the Overlook Hotel, more so than it focuses on the Torrance family. I've read The Shining. I read The Shining many, many moons ago. It's a great book. It's one of my all-time favorite Stephen King books. A miniseries was made several years ago for television that focused more on the book, that was more about the boiler situation and more about the possession of the hotel, the haunting of the hotel and so forth. And that was good too. I thought that was good. But if Stephen King does not like this movie because it's not based on his book, well, then I guess I get it. That everybody has an opinion. I love Stephen King, but to not like this movie, I think you got to be crazy if you're a horror movie fan and you just don't like this movie. I think it's one of the best that's ever been made. I think Jack Nicholson's performance in this movie is outstanding. So is Shelley Duvall. So is Scatman Crothers. So is young Danny Lloyd. He was 5 years old when this movie was made. And he only made one other movie and then told his parents he didn't like acting, so he's never acted again. I believe he's a teacher now, which is pretty cool. But knowing Stephen King and reading about Stephen King and following up with Stephen King and researching Stephen King, I think that he does like this movie. He just doesn't like the fact that it is so far from, the interpretation is so far from what his masterwork was. I do think Stephen King likes this movie, and I believe that I have read that Stephen King likes this movie. He just doesn't feel that it follows his book that closely, and it really doesn't. I just think that everything about this movie is great. It's an uncomfortable feeling from start to finish, all the way from when that guy first goes and has his interview to get the job as the caretaker at the Overlook Hotel, all the way up to the very end and the final scene of the movie. It's just uncomfortable. To be able to, what Stanley Kubrick was able to build in this movie, that constant feeling of tension, those low drone sounds that you hear going, you hear a low, almost buzz or hum throughout the movie. If you haven't noticed it already, the next time you go back and watch The Shining, pay attention, and you hear like a hum in the background throughout a lot of the movie. It's just awesome. It subconsciously or subliminally messes with you. It makes you feel uncomfortable. It's brilliant. When we first meet Jack Torrance, Jack Nicholson's character, he seems like he's kind of a jerk. You can kind of see it by the way he speaks to his wife and his son, that he's not the nicest guy in the world. Throughout the movie, you slowly start to see that go from not such a nice guy to madness. You can just see the layers peeling away, to where he's not. It's not so much that he's not a nice guy as that he's becoming insane. So now he's insane and crazy. He's mean and insane. Great combination. each time you see him, he seems to be drifting a little bit further away every time you see him. He gets to a point where he's speaking to ghosts. He's seeing things that aren't there, or are they? He's just going nuts, and that's what this movie is about. And he does an excellent job of portraying this character. I personally think that this is his best role ever. If this is not it, he did a movie called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest right around this time, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little before. And this movie and that movie, to me, almost go hand in hand because he's playing a crazy person in both of those movies, and Jack does it very, very well. That's probably why he was cast in this movie, because he played crazy so well in another movie. And now that I've seen The Shining so many times, and now that I've grown up with The Shining, just like anything else, I'm sure, after you see something so many times, you can't even imagine somebody else playing that role. So Jack Nicholson, to me, was born to be Jack Torrance. Casting for that role was perfect. He was the perfect guy for that job, and he carried out the job of being Jack Torrance flawlessly. On to Shelley Duvall. I think she portrayed the role of the meek, scared wife very, very well. You could see that the way that she carried her role out, you could tell that there was past abuse. You could tell that she was married to an alcoholic. You could tell that she was afraid of her husband. She was afraid of her husband in the first place, and then as you see him go through the steps of becoming what he becomes at the end of the movie, you can see the fear in her building up. She does a great job in playing the scared wife. She was perfect for her role as well. Scatman Crothers, I remember him growing up. You used to see him in relation to the Harlem Globetrotters in cartoons and so forth. That was my only real other memory of Scatman Crothers. But his role in The Shining was really cool too. You didn't see him a whole lot, but he was the link to Danny as far as The Shining goes. They could look at each other and they could have conversations without actually physically or audibly saying anything. They could have conversations with each other. There were parts of the movie where they were miles away from each other and they were having conversations with each other. Danny calls out to him for help through The Shining. It's pretty cool. Yeah, like I said, you don't see him a lot in the movie, but when you do see him, it's pretty impactful. I thought he did a great job in his role as well. Perfect casting as far as the Scatman went as well. Scatman passed away several years ago, unfortunately, but his legacy to me is The Shining. When I hear his name, I think Shining. Another major player in this movie was the setting. It was the Overlook Hotel itself. I thought that the way that most of the things in the hotel were filmed were also, they were beautiful and creepy. When you would see the scenes of the blood coming out of the elevator doors, you would hear almost silence, and then you'd hear like a quick screech. So the score was really cool. When you would see the ghosts in the movie, one of the things that I really appreciated and liked a lot, as far as the ghosts went, is it wasn't overrun with ghosts. You would see them so seldomly that you didn't know what to expect. You didn't know when to expect them. The way that it would build, you would almost expect to see something, and then you wouldn't see it, which was creepy. And then the next time, almost when you did not expect to see it because you didn't see it before, there it is. There's a ghost. So they had the two little girls in the hallway. You had, like, the bartender, Lloyd. He was really cool. There's a scene where Jack walks into a bar. The Golden Room was the bar, or the banquet room. There's nobody in there. You see a front shot of the bar. It's lit, but there's no liquor there. There's no bartender there. There is nobody in this room. Now he sits down. He faces the camera and just says, "Hello, Lloyd." And the camera pans around, and there's a guy there with a fully stocked bar. It's just really, really cool. It's very creepy. They tell you almost immediately that this guy's going crazy when he's sitting in this bar, obviously talking to nobody, drinking nothing. There's nothing there, but it's a whole scene built around him going crazy. It's awesome. You see bloody figures and you see the girls standing in the hallway. Then you see the girls dead on the floor with blood all over the place and an axe laying there. It's just the placement of the ghosts that throughout the movie was also a brilliant filmmaking to me. Not too much, just enough. There's a ghost that you see in room 237. It's an old rotten woman. When you first see her, she appears as a normal, beautiful woman in the bathtub. She gets up, she walks towards the Jack Torrance character, and he starts to kiss her. But when he looks up and looks in the mirror, he sees he's not kissing the beautiful woman. He's kissing a dead, rotted, old, dead. It's just disturbing. The image, that is one of the images of this movie that has stuck with me all through these years, is that dead woman that came out of that bathtub. It's absolutely disgusting. There's a lot of disturbing imagery in this movie, but that image of that woman getting out of that bathtub and then transforming, or excuse me, then you get the other shot of her with the big rotted holes in her, and her skin's green. That's the image that sticks in my head from The Shining. The two girls in the hallway and the dead naked old lady out of the bathtub. And then we have one of the most famous images in the history of horror movies, when Jack Torrance is trying to get to his wife, and he is breaking through the bathroom door with the axe, sticks his face through the door and says, "Here's Johnny." That is one of the most outstanding scenes in the movie as well. It's just creepy. That's the scene that the movie's known for. That's the scene that's on the DVDs. That's the scene that's on the posters. That's probably the most famous line that Jack Nicholson has ever spoken in a movie. And then the end of the movie, where you have Jack Torrance chasing Danny Torrance through the maze with the axe out in the snow. It's just those images of Jack standing, and you see like the tunneling around him of the maze and the lighting, and just the image of him standing with the axe and limping along. It's just, this movie was amazing. It was amazing when it was made, and it still holds up today. It's just as amazing today as it was before, if not more. Because now I look back at it and see how brilliant of a movie this was back then, with far fewer horror movies to take reference from. I just think that what Stanley Kubrick got out of the Stephen King book was amazing. I think he made a wonderful piece of work out of a wonderful book, but they're two very different things. You can see The Shining and not have read Stephen King's book, and you'd be just fine. Or you could read the book and not see the Stanley Kubrick's work, and that would be fine as well. You have two different things, two different pieces of art, of entertainment that are very, very different, and you can get tremendous enjoyment out of both of them. You could watch The Shining after reading The Shining, and it's a totally different experience. It's not like you know what's going to happen because you had the book. It's very different. It's awesome. I would go as far as to say that I appreciate that his book was so different, because it gave you the two different pieces of entertainment to enjoy. All right, what more can I say? I absolutely love The Shining. It's one of my favorite of all time. I can't pound on the drum of The Shining any more than I already have. Everybody that I speak to about horror movies, this is a movie that always comes up as being one of my favorites. I actually own this movie twice. I have the standard definition standard definition DVD on the old school DVD case. You can't even find these things anymore, and you haven't been able to find them in years. So I still have that thing laying around, and I also have the Best Buy Steelbook edition of The Shining that I just bought this Halloween season. They put a bunch of Steelbook stuff out. This is really nice. Picture of Jack Torrance in the snow in the back. Really cool. Blu-ray copy. I'll probably never watch my standard edition copy again, but I won't get rid of it either. You can't get one of those anymore. So even though I'll never watch it, I'll never get rid of it either. All right, The Shining. There's nothing else I can say. Of course, I give it 2 thumbs up. I give it as many thumbs as you can give. 2 thumbs, 2 big toes, 2 of everything you got. I know I said that I don't like to put spoilers in videos, but how do you avoid putting spoilers in a movie like this? The movie's 39 years old. If you're a horror movie fan, you got to watch The Shining. If you've never seen it and you just watched this video, I'm still telling you, I told you a lot about the movie. Go watch The Shining. You're doing yourself a disservice by not watching this movie. As I'm assuming that most of you have seen The Shining, you all know what I'm talking about when I talk about how wonderful this movie is. So what were your thoughts on The Shining? Leave me some comments below and let's talk about it. I love to hear what other people's feedbacks are on the movies that I grew up with and the movies that I love. All right, YouTube, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really liked the video, please subscribe to my channel. I would love for you to go on this journey with me. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have a kick-ass day, and thank you for watching.